Hello everyone, I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to talk to you about all the books I DNF'd in 2019. If you don't know, DNF stands for Did Not Finish. So I actually categorize these books in three categories. The first one is ARCs, so advanced reader copies, books that I got in advance from NetGalley. So NetGalley is a site where you can get books in advance from publishers in ebook format, and you get them either in PDF or in the format that you can use with your e-reader. So there were quite a few that I really didn't like, and I probably shouldn't have requested them, to be honest, but I did. And I read like a few pages and I was like, I really don't like the writing, like this book looks like it sucks. So I didn't finish them. The first one in that category is Back to Reality by Max Day. As I said, I just read a few pages. It was about a woman who has always liked to sing but hasn't in a long time, and I just saw her singing, and I don't know, it just seemed so uninteresting, and the writing was bad and it seemed all cliche, and yeah, I trashed it. Then there is All the Right Circles by John Russell. Again, this one, I just read a few pages. It was like in the suburbs, in some US town, and it was about this man who's a lawyer, I think, and it all seemed pretty boring, and yeah, there's just nothing interesting, so I trashed it. The next one is Entanglement by Andrew J. Thomas, sorry. This one is a sci-fi book, and I read quite a few pages. It was set on this base, military base, I think it was, and some things were happening. I don't really know. I only read a few pages, but again, I was not interested whatsoever. And then Eternal Shadow by Trevor B. Williams. This one I actually read 40% of, like, I think it was 200 pages at least that I read, and it was about the scientists that had to fight the end of the world, kind of, because there was this spaceship that they saw arriving that was destroying planets. So they saw it destroying other planets from the solar system, and it was coming at more than light speed towards them, and it was just so boring because basically the whole book was just them looking at screens and saying what they were seeing and trying to make assumptions, and like that works in B-list movies because you see them looking at screens and you have all the images that work for you. But in book format, like, it's the most boring thing ever, and I just couldn't do it, and I was like, he actually made the end of the world boring, you know? So, yeah. After ARCs, a category that I had was books that I just couldn't care less. Just like ARCs, actually, these ARCs, I read a few pages and I was like, I don't like this at all, let's just give it up. And the first one in that category was Buying Time by Joe Haldeman. I think Joe Haldeman wrote a few sci-fi classics, but this one, Buying Time, is about a world where you have to buy time, just like the title says. And so if you're poor, you just die, and so you have to find a way to make money. And we were following this guy who has had money for decades, and he has found new ways to get money every time because one way just doesn't work forever. And just in a few pages that I read, he was talking so much about breasts and about this woman that he used to be with, and it all just sounded so not interesting at all. It seemed like most of the plot was in the synopsis, you know, and that sometimes happens, and I don't like that. I think that if the synopsis tells you everything, then the book is not worth it at all, obviously, so I trashed it. Another book is The Kill Order by James Dashner. This is the prequel in the Maze Runner series and supposed to tell you what happened with the organization that was attacking them and created the maze. And I was really interested in that because I was very into the Maze Runner series back when it was very popular. And in the end, this book was just about new characters, and only like the last few pages talk to you about the link with the Maze Runner series. So what I did was that I started reading, and when I lost interest, I just read the last few pages to know how it was linked to the Maze Runner series, and so I got what I wanted. But the actual book, like, I didn't care one bit. The writing was not as good as I remembered, and I just didn't care. And next is In a Perfect World by Laura Kashishke. Laura Kashishke is an author that I've read a few books by, and I'm always feel weird. I always feel weird about her books because I feel like all her characters that she deems beautiful are all white, thin, and young. So everyone that doesn't go into this box is deemed bad or ugly or other bad things. And it was the same in this one. And more than that, what I was really bothered with was the main character in this one, because she was just this middle-aged woman who only cared about finding a man and having kids. I'm not saying that's not something that you should want and everything, but it shouldn't be like the first thing you think about in life. I think that sucks. Like, you should live for yourself and then want to find a man, because sure, why not? But yeah, it's something that annoys me so much with usually middle-aged women in books and in life, actually, how they just all they want in life is to find a man, and I can't relate. Another book I DNF'd is Au revoir là-haut by Pierre Lemaitre. I don't know how it's called in English, but I will put it here. This book actually won a lot of awards in France, and it was adapted into a movie that I did see and thought it was amazing. But the actual book was badly written, in my opinion. I read more than 200 pages and I was so bored. I was actually listening to an audiobook which was read by the author, and I still think it was extremely bad. The story I just didn't care for whatsoever. It's set in World War I, if I'm not mistaken, and it's about this man that just wants to get out of the war, and he manages to find a way. He actually loses most of his face, and so he has to wear a mask, so sort of plastic mask, and it's really ugly. But I know in the movie that he ends up making some masks that are actually beautiful, and it's all pretty mystical. Like, it ends up really cool, but the actual writing was so bad. It was so cliche all throughout, and I couldn't care less. Next in this category is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burden. This one I actually had high hopes for because I'd always heard good things about Jessie Burden, but this book just didn't hold my attention whatsoever. In it, we follow a woman in the 1860s in Amsterdam, and she goes to marry this man that she has almost never met. She has almost never met, and she starts to live with him, and he tells her that she can decorate a house however she wants, and so she finds this man who's a miniaturist, and he offers her a dollhouse, and she's trying to furnish the dollhouse, and so she finds this miniaturist, and he sends her some pieces, and some that she hasn't actually asked for and seem exactly like the reality, and it's all very weird. But like, the mystery part I was kind of interested in, but all the fact, like, she was actually trying to get her husband's attention because she hasn't spent that much time with him so far, and that kind of thing. Again, can't relate. I just don't care about those things. Women that just are after men, and more than that, just, as I said, the only part that I was interested in was the miniaturist and the mystery with that. And I actually read some spoiler reviews, as I do sometimes when I'm wondering if I should check a book. and all the reviews said that you don't actually know until the end who the main actress is. Not really. And so I was like, if I'm reading the whole book to actually not find out what I actually want to find out, like, what's the point? So, goodbye. And the last one in this category is In the Heart of the Sea, The Tragedy of the Whale Ship Essex by Nathaniel Philbrick. And this one is a non-fiction book about the tragedy of the whale ship Essex. Basically, it's about men who were on a whale ship and tried to kill this whale to catch it, and it brought them all down. And I don't know, all I can say is that, for one, I don't feel sorry for them because, I mean, let the whales alone. And I'm not really sure why I picked this up. I really thought that I would like it. It won the Pulitzer Prize, and I think that's why I bought it originally. And I was like, probably I'm going to like it. I don't know why, but no, I don't care about learning about people who kill whales and how they rebelled. I don't. The whole book is pretty well written, that's not the point, but I just didn't care. And the last category of books that I DNF'd is books that I DNF'd because of the writing or something specific that I just didn't care for. What I mean to say is that these books honestly seemed not so bad. Like, I understand why people like them, but just it really wasn't for me, so I DNF'd them quite quick. The first one in this category is There Was a Country by Chinua Achebe. This one is a non-fiction book about Chinua Achebe's life in whatever country, I don't remember the name of, in Africa, a country that was going through civil war when he was a kid, and he talks about him growing up there and then about civil war. And the thing is, I was really expecting kind of a memoir, and what I got was something close to a textbook. It was just so dry, and there was no emotion in it whatsoever. Though he was talking about his family and his life, and that seemed so weird to me, and I did not enjoy that, and so I just stopped reading. Next is How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia by Mohsin Hamid. I listened to this one audiobook because it's read by the author, and I also own the physical copy. What was wrong with this one for me is that it's written in second person, and that sometimes works. Like in You by Caroline Kepnes, I really enjoyed that it was written in second person, that you felt like you were the one that he was tracking, but in this one, it just felt weird and I didn't like it. I listened to half the book and I was like, no, it doesn't work for me. Next is Salvage Two Boons by Jesmyn Ward. This one I read like 40 pages and I haven't seen such flowery writing and comparisons ever in my life. It was horrible, and I remember one comparison specifically where she compared the color of a girl's hair that was gold to the color of a condom wrapper that was gold, and I was like, I don't need such comparisons in my life. I don't. And there were many such as that, and other things that really bothered me, and I was like, no, I don't need that. And also, the book in itself didn't really interest me. It was about this family that was a bit poor and living together, and they were pretty filthy and nothing really was happening, and I do like some books with no plot, but not all of them, and the writing was just really not jiving with me, so goodbye. And the last book that I DNF'd that I wanted to talk about is The Martian by Andy Weir. This one, I read a few pages again and DNF'd it because I really didn't like how he kept explaining things. So, obviously if you know The Martian, you know the story, but I've seen the movie also. So he is stuck on Mars and he has to find a way to live, and he's a scientist. So he explains to you everything that he's doing and the science behind it. And the thing is, obviously, if you know my channel, you know that I study science. So everything that he was telling, I already know. And So I was just like, I don't care about knowing these things, like, just get to the point. But obviously, a lot of people will appreciate that he explained everything because they don't know, and I totally understand that. But for me, it was just extremely annoying, and I felt like I was told down to, and yeah, just I didn't like it at all, and so I stopped reading. But anyway, that was the last book that I had to talk about. So in the end, I DNF'd 14 books in 2019, which is a fair number, but then again, I read 127, so that's a good number as well. But yeah, please tell me if you have read one of these books and what you thought of them, and maybe you can convince me to try it again. I don't know. Though I do have my reasons, as you see, for DNFing them. But I would love to hear your thoughts, though, in the comments, and anything else that you would like to tell me. But yeah, that's all for me. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon in another video. Goodbye! Dream I know, deep up my feelings.